Fragile Promises by Zeragii. Chapter 1. For Every Affliction. The canopy of twinkling stars above was a carousel of blending colors, full of cold navy blues, arid pinks, and soft smearing purples. The silhouettes of craggy pines cut upward into the night canvas, dark and black against the aurora of the heavens. An endless cluster of pinpoint lights outlined the reaching arm of the Milky Way galaxy, a steady reminder that while the world above ground seemed vast, almost infinite, it was really quite a small place compared to the rest of the universe. A mere floating speck in the ocean of space. It was late summer on the surface, the tail end of a long, hot August that had turned wet and muggy for a while toward its finish. Rainy season had now come and gone, and the humidity of true summer had long since been chased away by a telling chill in the air. Fall was coming, evidenced by how some of the trees' leaves, those pretty star-shaped cutouts, had already started turning from vibrant green to varying shades of magenta, tangerine, and gold. The grasses had browned and tanned. What once had been lush and moist was now coarse and stickly. The charade of healthy foliage turned into the earthy palette of autumn. Even heralding summer's death, it was beautiful, wondrous, spectacular. It may have been nothing like the distinct and near-mystical worlds that had existed in the underground. Snowdon with its Arctic temperatures, Hotland with its desert-like heat, and Waterfall with its cyan-colored marshes. But the surface was absolutely breathtaking in its own way. The moon's albedo gleamed down on the earth like a silver spotlight, an ordinary miracle, and yet one that still carried with it a sense of familiar awe. The same could be said for the changing of the seasons themselves. So common a thing, and yet every heart on earth should have found comfort in the refreshing shifts that measured eternity into comprehensible chunks. Frisk barely noticed. Even as the glow of stars overhead shimmered, her own soul was dimmed and crushed beneath a non-corporeal weight. The child sat alone, small and curled into herself, on the peak of a large, rough boulder. The forest around her felt cold and dull, colorless in the semi-darkness of night. The stone was harsh beneath her rear, softened only by the meager patches of dehydrated moss that dotted its surface and the fabric of her own pants. The boulder was a pitted landmark, worn by weather and countless ages, the kind of majestic mass thought to be carried by glaciers, only to be dropped once the great ice giants had melted away. It sat in a small clearing, surrounded by tall pine trees that towered over it, but left a modest patch of starry sky still visible above. Frisk had come to consider this spot as a place of contemplation, of peaceful thought and meditation, but it held none of those warmer, pleasanter aspects tonight. Despite the coolness of the dusk air, Frisk felt red-faced and overheated. Sweat tickled against her skin as it formed a thin sheen against her forehead and cheeks. Her hair felt heavy on her own head, damp from the bath she had taken shortly before in a nearby stream, her locks still wet and dripping. She was shaking slightly, though not from the cold, and her breaths came out rough and staggered. Agitation roiled in her soul, a thick, helpless sort of feeling that stiffened her movements and made her throat feel tight. The breeze that ran through the clearing felt nice in comparison, brushing up against her glistening skin, passing through her blue and pink sweater like it was nothing. Her expression was pinched, stubborn and determined. "I won't," Frisk muttered thickly into the surrounding clearing. Her voice was rock solid, serious and stern. She picked at the dry, crumbly moss on the stone surface around her, the fibers jamming up under her fingernails as she fidgeted unconsciously. I'm done with this game. I want it to stop. This isn't funny anymore. It never was. Silence greeted her. Nothing but the sound of the wind rustling and the trees' crisping edges. To any onlooker or passerby, the thin 9-year-old girl might have seemed to be talking to herself, her voice reedy and distressed, posture tight and shuddering. Concern would have been warranted, seeing as there was no other soul in sight to which she could possibly be speaking to. Her obvious anger and frustration were thrown to the night air, words fading and sounding small in the pure vastness of the outside world. It swallowed up in her passionate statement, eating it away to tense quiet. However, despite all appearances, the young one was far from alone. Frisk absently dislodged another clump of moss with her fingertips, frown increasing. "Kara, did you hear me?" she asked sharply, narrowing her eyes to further peer into the darkness. It took a moment, a long, arduous moment. But just when she was about to sigh and give it up for loss, Frisk finally spotted what she was looking for. A shadow, visible and yet only just barely, faded into existence in front of the child. It hovered there, a wraith-like figure, strange and mysterious, chilling. It was small, no bigger than Frisk herself in size and shape, but the aura of darkness that surrounded it like a cloak made it seem bigger, more imposing. It floated, a specter amidst the forest backdrop. The trees visible through its body like white china was visible through a bowl of yellow jello. It existed as an extension of Frisk's own shadow, a nearly featureless entity with only a set of glowing red eyes based in its head, and a heart-shaped pulse of crimson in its chest. Without those distinct qualities, it would have been almost nothing more than a darkened blotch on the landscape. Most would pass it by, none the wiser to its existence, other than a rising of the hairs on the backs of their necks and a swipe of cold air against their brow. Frisk, as she had long since discovered, was the only one who could see it.
"I heard you,"
the spectre hummed, sounding bored. Its voice echoed in Frisk's mind, words and yet not. It bobbed in place, like a piece of wood caught adrift in a pool.
"But it makes very little difference, you know that, right? You're just wasting your breath."
I don't want to reset, Frisk repeated, regardless. She gritted her teeth, so hard that they almost seemed to creak in her jaw, the pressure and slight pain helping to keep her focused and grounded. Her fingers curled into fists against the rock. This timeline worked out for the better. I'm happy. Everyone's happy. There's nothing wrong with it. There's no need to undo it. No reason for me to do it at all. The shadow shifted, moving closer to the child's front, looking down on her and making her flinch as it ran cold, senseless fingers through Frisk's still damp bangs. It was an odd gesture, inappropriate considering the nature of their forced symbiotic relationship. Then again, Kara had always seemed to enjoy making others uncomfortable through close contact, with Frisk particularly. There was no actual sensation of touch between them, only a stiff wrongness in the displaced air as the fingers phased through Frisk's hair. Maybe no one else would have noticed, but Frisk did, and it made her feel sick. With a jolt, the sweatered girl moved out of reach, disgust and annoyance clear on her face. She scooted back a few inches, pulling her knees up to her chest and crossing her arms over them, fixing Kara with a heated glare, one without fear, directed at the being so much like, and yet so very much unlike herself.
"Who said that I ever needed a reason to do the things I do?"
Kara cooed, not insulted in the least by Frisk's reaction. They merely considered her. A barely perceivable smile quirked at a belittling angle as they slowly retracted their shadowed limb.
I never needed a reason before, and I certainly don't need one now. Reasons create limits to an individual's abilities, and I've always liked keeping my options open.
They took in Frisk's tense posture with amusement.
You seem awfully fired up tonight. What's the matter? Feeling a little hard-pressed, are we?
They teased mockingly. Kara. Frisk murmured lowly in a warning tone, her fists clenched tighter. The spirit rolled their crimson eyes.
Yes, whatever. Seriously? I've been urging you to reset for weeks, and it's just now that you're deciding to fight me on this? I thought I beat that stubbornness out of you a long time ago.
They growled. Frisk didn't grace them with an answer, so they continued.
Listen up, Frisk, and listen good. I'm bored. This stupid run has gone on for 2 whole months. 2. I've had it up to here with this lovey-dovey hopeful future crap.
Their grin, something more sensed than seen, sharpened.
I want excitement. I want to play, to bring everything back to square one so I can carry out more of my little games and experimentations. I want suffering and hurt. I want to go back and cause the havoc we do so well, relive the old times over and over again. Because, you know, we're really such a good team, you and I. Don't you think?
Frisk's chest flared with hot determination, the feeling coursing up through her body like a shot of something familiarly molten. It was a rarer thing these days, but when it happened, Frisk could feel the warmth of her strength course through her entire body. She straightened her spine in defiance, gripping her legs all the tighter. No.
No, we don't make a good team. Or no to resetting as a whole.
No resetting, Kara. Like I said, I'm done. You can't make me. The spirit's expression turned to one of cold anger.
Is that so? Huh. Like you've ever had a choice in the past. What makes you think this would be any different?
Frisk remained defiant, but the question reverberated in her mind, demanding a solution but leaving her grasping at straws. The mental stumble must have shown in her eyes, or maybe it was just that Kara could reach down deep and sense her innermost thoughts, rip them from her like painful thorns. Kara's anger dissolved into cruel amusement.
You don't have an answer to that, because you don't have a choice. You never did.
Their ethereal voice was sharp and painful in Frisk's temple. She'd never quite figured out how Kara could cause that ache in her head, that feeling of pressure or presence. But it was there, and it hurt. It always hurt.
I don't need your consent, stupid. I'll get what I want, one way or another. You might still be able to dig your heels in, but in the end, you are mine. Your existence is mine. Power is mine.
The living child winced, a hand snaking up to press against her forehead, feeling ill as the pain in her mind increased. She had figured out a long time ago that Kara's spirit resided within her, rooted deep in her mind and soul like a parasite, unseen but felt. Sometimes, if she was being particularly stubborn, Kara would use their entangled network of emotions and sensations against her. Pain was easily inflicted, though how was a mystery, and it never seemed to hurt Kara, only Frisk. Headaches, twinges, burning. It was never enough to defeat Frisk completely, but it certainly slowed her down. Working through the pain was like trying to swim upstream, only the current was molasses, and the water a liquid bed of nettles. Kara's wrath could be exceptionally cruel, but this time Kara regained their composure almost immediately, sneering down at Frisk with contempt as the burning twinge subsided. There was a warning gleam in their eyes, one that told Frisk she had best back down, unless she was looking for a more severe punishment. Kara was a stick of unpredictable dynamite, unstable and dangerous, always one lit match away from exploding, and yet could conduct themselves with controlled and measured self-discipline that was frightening.
You lost the privilege of choosing your fate a long time ago. Oh, and don't act all indignant. You've had plenty of time to get used to the idea, so don't give me that look. It's not like it's that big of a shock. We've been doing this for, what? Hundreds of runs? Thousands? Don't pretend you're only just now growing a conscience.
Frisk glanced away, her throat feeling even tighter. All manner of comebacks and barbed comments came to mind, but they stuck there, as if frozen, useless, and unhelpful. Not that she would ever truly resort to such petty squabbling, or, at least, she wouldn't have in the past. Frisk had never been one to bandy words with anyone, no matter how much the other person may deserve it. Words could be hurtful. They had the ability to build up or tear down in the most terrifying of ways. Kara, it seemed, was a master of both, and had no qualms about using the diverse skill to their advantage. Frisk had lost count of how many times the demon had built her up and torn her down in the matter of a few sentences, giving her hope and then snatching it away, taking a chunk of her soul along with it. Frisk's frustration climbed higher, self-anger boiling within her at her seeming inability to gather up something to better her situation. That fact was made all the harder by the persistent understanding that Kara was right. Frisk had long since lost the power to have any say in the things Kara wanted, and she had no one to blame but herself. Kara's shadow watched Frisk with a satisfied grunt, reading her emotions like Braille on a blackboard.
You really are pathetic.
They chuckled.
You sit there, stewing in your own anger, and yet you're too much of a wimp to stand up and give as good as you've gotten. Not that it would matter at all. I'd be able to take you on, even at your worst. In a sense, I'm more of you than you are at this point. Don't play nice, and all I have to do is hurt you a little to get you back in line.
A playful flash of an expression flitted across their spirit, the kind that meant mischief was to follow, and that was never good.
But, just out of curiosity, Frisk, imagine I could be swayed. What would you say to me?
Frisk looked up, anger momentarily dissipating in her confusion. What?
Imagine you could get me to keep this worthless timeline going. Imagine your words could actually make some kind of a difference. What would you say? Come on, convince me.
Exhaustion lapped at Frisk's tenuous patience. I don't feel like playing games, Kara. Let's just drop it.
No, I'm really curious now. I want to know what you would say. Would your words make me see reason? Would they touch my little rotten soul? Bring a spark of my old true self to life? You never know. We live in such a strange, fantastical world. Perhaps there is still hope for someone like me. Just like you're always saying. Like that idiot sentry in Snowden is always telling us. Before we slice his stupid head off.
Papyrus isn't
What if all it took to end all this was you simply giving it a try?
Their grins stretched. I've tried before, Frisk intoned tiredly. many times.
Try again.
Kara.
Try again.
Frisk sighed. She knew what they were doing, trying to raise her hope only to dash it to pieces as usual. But the temptation was there, strong and thriving and real. Frisk couldn't let this go without at least giving it her best shot. She couldn't, even if that meant enduring another blow to her already badly wounded hope and determination. She had to try. She'd never forgive herself otherwise. While her belief in Kara's redeemability was dwindling, there was still that sliver in her soul that insisted Kara could change, that they could be saved. It was a very Papyrus-esque mindset, Frisk knew, as Kara themselves had pointed out, and not entirely practical. But it was one she just couldn't shake. Frisk knew better than anyone, despite her own pacifistic nature, that sometimes peace wasn't the path life took, no matter how hard one tried to ensure it. Peace was preferable, always preferable, but not always possible. History was filled with circumstances of the unfavorable, and of people who had refused to let peace guide their lives. Choices made all the difference, and sometimes the wrong paths were taken. And those people, the ones who made those bad decisions, they had dragged the rest of the world down with them. History was doomed to repeat, in more ways than those found just within the resets. And yet, goodness had always prevailed eventually. Beaten, scorched, and limping, but forever moving forward. With another resigned sigh, Frisk closed her eyes, willing her heart to flare with the love she'd never withhold from anyone, even her greatest foe. We've exhausted all the possibilities, Kara, she murmured weakly but fervently. We found every secret, memorized every branch of dialogue, explored every cave and every possible outcome. We've saved everyone, and we've destroyed everyone, in every possible way, countless times. You've made me hurt them in every possible way, in every variation, and Kara, I'm tired. I don't want to hurt them anymore. They're my friends, and I love them. With all my heart. What we've done to them, whether they remember it or not, it's cruel. So very, very cruel. Frisk fought back the angry tears that threatened to fall, her soul clenching and aching. She focused her gaze down at the surface of the rock she sat on. Brow lowered as hot tears leaked down her cheeks. If it's excitement you want, then you should just let things be. The future holds more than the same stretch of the past, repeating over and over and over again. Let us all find peace. Please, Kara, there must be some good inside you. You have to feel something for them. Anything. She met what she imagined was Kara's gaze, expression desperate and pleading. Please. Kara's face morphed into something truly remorseful, and for a single moment, Frisk thought maybe she had reached them somehow. But like the flip of a switch, that regret instantly turned into a mocking grin.
Really? That's all you've got to say? Gee, you're more pathetic than I thought.
They leaned closer, enough so that Frisk had to tilt back slightly to keep her personal space intact.
I like making your little friends suffer. That's all there is to it. In fact, like probably isn't strong enough a word. I love how it makes us feel. My pleasure and your pain, disgust. Underground, I hold the power to keep them together or tear them apart, piece by dusty piece. I control all their fates. Their cries and screams for mercy are music to my ears. Their desperation amuses me and makes me feel alive. Without it, I feel nothing, and with it, I have life, and I want that back. I enjoy it. I crave it. I exist for it.
They moved back a little, surveying Frisk's dismayed expression haughtily. The living girl was trembling, filled with hopeless anger and devastation. Kara smirked, delivering the final blow.
See? Your words mean nothing to me. If you really loved them, you'd fight for them.
Frisk sagged, defeated.
Oh, that's right. Pacifists don't fight.
Kara sneered.
Too bad for you and them. Besides, we haven't exhausted every possibility. I've always got new things to try out. Maybe we can play with the comedian this time. He's always so much fun. Kill his brother right in front of him. Force him to watch. It never gets old. Seeing how that destroys him. Oh, or maybe we could let that fish-faced captain melt into a blue bottle again. That's always a load of laughs. What if the scientist were there to see that, huh? She'd probably off herself right then and there. And who says we figured out every secret the world below ground has to offer? What about that mysterious gray door? What about that?
Frisk clenched her teeth. They have names, Kara, she growled. They have personalities and lives and ambitions, and you can't just treat people like that.
Don't be an idiot. I do it all the time. I have the power to reset, or I do through you. And that means I make the rules. They're nothing more than toys. And toys are fun to play with, but they're also fun to break. Fixing them only means more opportunities to break them again and again. So many possibilities. So many chances to try something new and end the cycle with no consequences. A dream come true.
There are always consequences for the choices we make, Frisk recited in a choked whisper. Kara's eyes flashed, anger palpable.
Is that what he told you?
They gave a laugh, scornful.
He's the biggest fool of them all. Oh, come on, you know it's true. Judging us, he can't even begin to understand what we are. Never mind determine what we deserve. He's just as guilty, leaving his friends and family to die without even trying to stop us until it's too late. If he had any sense at all, he'd exact judgment on himself and blast his bony butt to the four corners of the earth. Kaboom!
Frisk hung her head, wet hair creating a curtain between her despaired expression and the demon, who would surely find that emotion delicious. Kara, please.
Kara, please.
They mimicked, mocking.
So you've resorted to begging now? Is that really the extent of your so-called endless capacity? How cute.
Just one more night, Frisk pleaded, frustrated. She was full on crying now. Not a messy, girly cry, but a deep, hurt, and silent leak of tears drawn her face. Just one more night, Kara. Please, just one more night. I know you've let this timeline go on for so long, but right now it's too soon, too sudden. Frisk's soul felt like it was splitting. She knew she was helpless in this case. Whatever Kara wanted, Kara got, and whatever lenience she received were only those that met the other's fancy. Mercy was rare, and usually laced with a poisonous hidden agenda. Kindness was only ever a means to a more devastating end. The demon gazed on her in disgust.
Oh, don't be so dramatic. It's not the end of the world. You'll get your turn for a happy ending again soon enough. I'm fair, aren't I? Letting you get your way from time to time. Just let me have a little fun first. I was nice. I gave you 2 months to quench your weird pessimistic desires, to get it out of your system. Now it's my turn.
You weren't always like this, Frisk whispered weakly. She wiped her sleeve over her eyes, a futile attempt at staunching the flow of sorrow. You couldn't have been. Mom talks about you sometimes. It makes her sad, but she does. She loved you. They all did. Her, Asgore, Azrael. They would have done anything for you. They did do everything. They accepted you into their lives, adopted you as one of their own. Azrael gave his life for you, doesn't... Frisk's voice broke, pained. She swallowed, not meeting Kara's crimson eyes. Doesn't that mean anything to you?
No.
A sadder, more bitter note bled into the spirit's voice.
Maybe once, but not anymore.
Mom says you were a good kid, Frisk pressed on. A little high-spirited maybe, but her stories never include you hurting others. She says you were curious and brave, and that you stuck up for what you believed in. You had a part in their world in a way that even I will never have. You were a princess. You were a symbol of hope to a people that had none. You were...
People change, especially when they die. A helpless child in a land of idiots who knew nothing of human illnesses.
Kara ground their teeth.
They were fools to think that they could do anything to save me. They put too much faith in what they thought I was. A savior. Right. A savior who couldn't tell the difference between butter and buttercups. If I could mess that up, there was no way I could save them.
Kara's frown deepened.
Dad called me the future of humans and monsters. He was so sure that I would do good by them, that I'd make a difference. It was his stupid ideas that ended up getting me killed. I felt I had to fulfill the role he and Mom had dumped on my shoulders. So I took a chance. The biggest, most desperate chance. I gave up everything for them. My very life.
That was brave, Frisk murmured. She couldn't hold back a gentle smile, the anger of before softened by her empathy. You loved them too once. They were your family. Kara gave a snarl, the tenderness gone up in smoke like flash paper.
Yeah, and see where it got me. I'm dead, Frisk. My body lies under the yellow flowers of the ruins. My stupid mother dumped me there and left me. My father tore my family apart with his idiocy the minute I was gone, and my brother...
The spirit practically hissed.
My brother messed up everything and ended up destroying himself along with me, the fool. And still, after all my sacrifice, monsters remained trapped underground. I left the surface to find a better life, and all I received was a fate worse than death. Monsters can't be trusted. Neither can humans. They're all just a bunch of self-centered imbeciles. I delight in the ability I now hold to cause them suffering through you. It's not even a fraction of what they deserve for what they did to me.
Kara,
Shut up. Do what I say, or I'll give you something to cry about.
More hot tears leaked down Frisk's face, unashamedly. I'm tired of being your puppet, she choked.
Puppet, huh? Maybe you should have thought things through a bit more before you took me up on our little deal.
Kara gave a low chuckle, cruel and merciless.
Oh well, too late now. Don't forget, you're the one who made this all possible. It was you who first grew tired of the mundane repeat existence of the resets. It was you who longed for something different, something off the script and exciting. It was you who called on my name, snatched up my offer like it meant the world to you. Don't play the innocent. No one's that naive. And don't forget that it was by your hand, and your hand alone, that the first monster life was taken. The powdered dust staining your little delicate fingers gray, ruining your clothes.
Kara, stop! Stop it!
It's the truth. Don't deny it.
Frisk flinched, curling further into herself. She couldn't deny it. I know, she wept. I know. Kara huffed dismissively.
And you have the gall to ask for more time. Do you really think you deserve it? After what you've done?
There was only one answer. No.
You and your stupid ideals and stubbornness. What do you think even more time will buy you? Their forgiveness? Even if they did somehow remember what you've done, do you really think they'd forgive you? Their supposed savior who has allowed them to be tortured beyond comprehension. If I can't have their love, then neither can you. You think they'd love a murderer? Forgive one?
No. Her voice was little more than a croak.
Exactly.
Kara shook her head, disappointed.
And yet you still try. Isn't that just precious? Do you really truly think you'll ever be free of me? You, who can't even stay your hand from taking the life of a Whimsun, or a Frogget, or our own mother.
Frisk shook her head, a faint sob tearing from her throat.
Good.
Kara grinned, satisfied.
At least now we understand each other.
The spectre drifted back a little, taking Frisk in with a long, contemplative look. They seemed to be considering something, weighing it in their mind. Finally, they gave their eyes an annoyed roll, like Frisk was the bane of their existence.
Fine, whatever. You don't have to reset until later tonight, but that means no whining next run when I start gutting your little friends, alright? It's so annoying. Next reset is mine. Interfere. And I'll make those you love suffer tenfold of what I've already got planned. I'll twist their souls so mercilessly, they'll be begging for us to kill them. Got it?
Something like hope bloomed in Frisk's chest. She was almost ashamed of how something so small and nonsensical could make her feel so sickeningly grateful. She nodded so hard her neck hurt, willing to take any circumstance as long as it meant prolonging the inevitable a little bit longer. It was foolish, maybe. A childish hope, but she owed it to the others, after the horrible fate she'd allowed Kara to exact upon them. It was the least Frisk could do. "Thank you, Kara," she breathed. "Thank you."
Don't get too excited. I'm doing it because it benefits me, not you. Not anyone else either.
They glared.
And don't get that sappy. Anyone can be a good person if they just try. Look again. You and I know how unlikely that is. And what befalls those that keep such beliefs close to their heart, or in a more specific case, their soul.
They huffed a scornful laugh, before fixing Frisk with a warning expression.
Late tonight, reset, or I'll make you.
A cold feeling washed over Frisk, promising great pain if she resisted again. She really had no choice. "Yes, Kara."
Good girl. Now let's get...
"Kid?" Frisk startled hard at the shout that rang out nearby. A third voice, a real voice, one that she recognized with both a wave of relief and a thrill of fear. She gasped, legs kicking out from under her chin and causing her to hiss in pain as her bare heels skidded rough rock surface beneath her. She must have been loud enough to be heard by the newcomer, because, after a beat of silence, the voice rose up to her again.
Kid? You up there?
Frisk twisted her torso around with a jerk, remaining seated as she peered down over the back edge of her perch, while hurriedly wiping away her tears on her sleeve. Evidence of her emotions would only make the conversation to come harder than it needed to be.